All right. Okay, so welcome to the course. Today we're going to record some content with the co-founder of Hyperize.com to introduce you to the premise of what is website personalization according to Hyperize, how this is now a service that you can offer your SMB and mid-market clients, not just enterprise. We can now offer a cost-effective and valuable and high-margin full funnel web personalization service for all of your clients using Hyperize. We're going to show you how to do that. We're going to give you some pricing. We're going to give you some actionable steps to sell into those accounts so you can really figure out how and why and when to sell into what accounts. That's our goal for today. We're going to touch on pricing, which we'll go into later in the course, meaning how are you going to sell it, for what costs, and where are your margins and what are the expenses that roll into that. But first, Ian, why don't you do a quick introduction to yourself and Hyperize?
Hey everybody. I'm Ian Naylor, the co-founder of Hyperize. Really excited to be here and show this to you. This is a product we've been working on for a couple of years now, and we've been working with a fair few agencies in our beta, and we've seen some amazing results. So I'm really excited to share this with you.
Awesome, yeah. And you know, we have some slides to show, but let's do this. Why don't we start with what are we talking about with regards to full funnel personalization? What are some of the main, like, give me 3 in particular places that Hyperize will personalize?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm sure personalization is a concept, you know, we're all familiar with. You know, we've all been sending emails with dear first name with some sort of personalization tag for, you know, at least the last 10 years, hopefully. But to fast forward to kind of present day personalization, you know, it requires a lot more data and capabilities than just dropping in a merge tag and pulling it from your CMS or CRM. So, for example, with Hyperize, you know, we can really tap into the kind of images being at the heart of a personalization. You know, we recognize images in milliseconds as kind of humans. We process them. So if we can include personalization in that, you know, we're able to trigger pattern interrupts, which just gives us much broader kind of mind share and ability to move the customer along the sales funnel. So one of the first use cases that we used was within our outreach, so demand generation. So obviously an email would be a good use case for that, including a personalized image that would be dynamic to the recipient. You know, that could be then leading them from you know, that website, you know, so from that email through to your website, continuing that personalization in terms of image personalization, but also textual and call to action personalization, and then re-engaging them if they don't take that action using personalized ads, again, flowing through that personalized image to really be able to trigger that, you know, that kind of full funnel hyper personalization.
Yeah. So if you're a marketer, this is perfect for you, but it also works and is a service that web developers can offer. But even sales consultants, I mean, I've seen a lot more sales consultants touching personalization more as a recommendation, not necessarily as a service. So let's just break it down from a macro level. You know, if you're talking about personalization from a sales process, you probably know Vidyard. This is personalized videos, me telling Ian, hey, thanks for signing up today, in an email, you know, and you get that little GIF and there's a button there and you can click and watch the video and it's personalized. Bonjoro did a lot of work paving the way for companies like Vidyard to really scale up. Issue there is it's pretty one-dimensional and it's, you know, it's expensive, honestly. It's, I think, $400 a month, something like that, just for that tool. So then we look at the website side. You know, my experience, I think Ian and I started around the same time. I was working with a platform called Boomtrain way back in the day. Boomtrain was just, I think, on-page personalization of content, but it was actually rearranging the content on the page so it would show different blog posts depending on what you touched down the funnel. On your very first site visit. So it'd cookie your browser, it'd track your clicks, and then it would show some cool content, and then it would show a personalized heading. Then companies like Blue Shift came up. Blue Shift started to get into more email personalization, more e-commerce driven email personalization. So based on all of your activity, it would show you different products. Again, those two products were $1,000 a month minimum. Then you get Optimizely, and you get some of the analytics-based web personalization. Problem with these types of tools, they do require a database. They do require an enrichment product and or a database to pull the content from. Meaning, if someone's on your website, how are you going to know who that person is, right? So there's historic data, cookie browsers, that tracks what they did on your site the first time. But what we're talking about is retroactive personalization, where you have to pull IPs, you have to pull enriched data, you have to pull something from the CRM to know who they are, right? Which means Clearbit, which means your CRM, Salesforce, maybe Segment. The whole point here is like, now this is where marketers typically stop with personalization, right? Now, there are companies like UseProof that are starting to come a little bit downstream, a little bit, not a lot. And they're starting to say, hey, you know, we can offer you this and that and get you going. But again, we're still looking at 4 digits a month, give or take, right? $1,000, which as a marketer, depending on where you sit, if you're trying to pull PPC budget, you're trying to pull SEO budget, coming to them with $1,000 a month solution, and then you have to make money on that as a marketer, as an agency, that kind of puts you in a position where you probably back away from web personalization. You say, it'd be a nice to have, but I can't realistically sell that to my client. So let's start there. So where and why and how is Hyperize as cost effective as it is? So start at the price point, and then talk to me about how you can actually do what a Clearbit plus an Optimizely can do. And then where does that stop? And what is the ceiling there?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great place to start. And I think essentially, you know, as you kind of pictured there, or painted the picture, there's many different moving parts there. You know, and each of those moving parts are trying to build their own margin and their own economic base. So you've got Clearbit, for example, which their part is the pure data enrichment or IP detection, and then you've got the Optimizely, which is the implementation of that data, and they both have their own moving parts. So when you're trying to implement those together, not only do you have potential integration costs, but you have those two different margins. Whereas Hyperize has all of that under one roof, as it were, all out the box. So that enables you to implement that, without all of these kind of larger enterprise companies, which are pitching significantly sized businesses, and then say double margin essentially. So we provide all of that, and at the same time reduce the implementation headache, because it's one out of the box system. You don't have to use any expensive technical resource to implement it.
Got it. Yeah, awesome. I was on mute there. Sorry, but that's perfect explanation and perfect place to start. So what I'd like to do now is go into the slide deck, if you can.
Yeah.
So now that we kind of are all on the same page with the what and why and how of specifically, Hyperize in this mix. Now what we need to do is make sure that we understand. Yeah, let's start at. And this is a part of the presentation later on. So let's go into, I think it was slide 5. I'd like to start, since we've done all this, I think in a future class.
But in terms of the channels that are most applicable, is that?
Yeah, let's start there. If you can kind of give just a quick bit, and you've done all this in a later class. So if you can start there, just give a quick, what is this? And then the next slide, I think it was slide 6. Is the one that I found super compelling.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a survey that was actually carried out at the start of this year. So it's very current, and was over 1,000 digital agencies in here. And looking at, these are agencies that are already using personalization in some aspects of their clients, and looking at the experiences, and whether they believed it was driving better results, or where it was kind of having a greater impact. And obviously in terms of the top line, where it's increasing loyalty for customers, generating or lifting ROI. But obviously the one that kind of stands out head and shoulders above the rest is driving better customer experiences. You know, we're always looking to stand out and delight our clients, or our clients' customers, and that kind of shows that that really is kind of one of the key drivers from a personalization perspective. But in terms of, you know, the channels that where this is most effective, you know, certainly email stands out, and a website as some of the two of the core channels, you know, where people are presently using that. And I think part of that is related to channels that we feel comfortable in, but also, you know, what the tools that are presently available that kind of allow those channels to be personalized. With Hyperice, for example, some of these lesser personalized channels such as online advertising and social are also going to be an option, which means that you're kind of broadening out, you know, your services, you know, to areas that are kind of less saturated from a personalization perspective. And I think this kind of touches upon that. Actually, whilst all of these agencies and marketers recognize that personalization is incredibly effective, actually, how many of them are satisfied? Less than half the marketing professionals were satisfied with that, which kind of shows the kind of, again, touching back on your point before, you know, this mishmash of tools out there, and there isn't a cohesive solution, certainly not for the mid-market. And what we can see, and the reason for that is because of that convoluted process or tools out there, marketing, you know, a lot of people lack the confidence to be able to implement these sort of strategies, which means that, as you said before, because of potential tight margins, because of the expense of the tools, and then compounded by the potential lack of confidence in there, it just means that these services are kind of often left on the shelf for mid-market, even though they can still be incredibly effective.
Yeah. I mean, I've dealt with a little bit of this, but you know, once you get into a personalized system, it's, unless somebody owns it, you know, it's very tough for the website owner to be comfortable adopting what would be a personalized service. So our job and Hyperice solution, you know, we are hopefully giving you everything that you need to be confident to own a personalization strategy for your clients. We want to tiptoe in. We're not going to jump in head first. So I think the important thing to do now is to tell them, you know, okay, where would a good starting point be for personalization? What would the hours and time that agency would have to devote to learning it and then supporting it? So maybe start with email. Where would you suggest they sell the service first in the funnel? And then how would the progression look, right? So if my client tells me, Alex, I'm not getting high enough click rates on my email campaigns, or maybe they tell me their click rate and I know it's not high enough. Talk to me about what would be a conversation that I could have with that client to get me started with personalization in the email funnel. And then how does that progress into website and other areas where you would suggest making sure that it's a full funnel?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yes, certainly, it's always from a kind of a friction perspective, you know, looking for that low-hanging fruit. So, you know, what are the current campaigns the client is doing? Are they using outreach? Are they using email? Is it LinkedIn? Is it ads? Is their ad spend too high? They say, are their emails not being clicked? Is their their click-through rate, if it's, you know, less than 20% from an email open, then certainly there's opportunity there to improve that. So in all of those cases, there's some tremendous case studies out there. SalesLoft, for example, looked at over 220 million sales email and found a direct correlation between the amount of personalization used in an email and the reply rate. You know, with such a significant survey in terms of volume, you know, it really can be quite compelling for a user. And in terms of implementation time, you know, taking existing sales and marketing image asset and applying a personalization layer, using existing marketing platforms. So whether they're using, you know, Hyperice integrates with hundreds of marketing email platforms. So, you know, again, low friction, taking existing assets, applying personalization layers, and using with existing marketing platforms can be, you know, a matter of hours to implement, but you could be seeing, you know, 2x uplift. According, you know, like I say, the SalesLoft saw a doubling of click-throughs from emails when a high level of personalization was used, you know, in that outreach. So that would, that would be a great starting position. And then from there, once you've proven that, you can kind of roll out other services, because this is kind of compounding, right? So if you send out an email and you get a 2x uplift of people arriving to your site, and then, right, okay, now let's get that same 2x uplift by personalizing the call to actions. HubSpot did a 6-month review of over 300,000 websites and found over a 200% uplift in call to actions when personalizations were used on the site. So again, you're seeing a similar kind of reaction uplift that, that we saw from email on the site, on the website. So, you can continue to drive improvements to the client by rolling out further personalization until the whole funnel is personalized.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I think the main strategy there is, if you are touching the site and you're developing the site as we speak, meaning you are a CRO agency or you are a web development agency, that's one world. That's a world where you can probably start with the website. But I think most of the people watching and listening will be in the world where they're doing some level of marketing activity, PPC,
Yeah.
SEO, email marketing, sales consulting, that kind of stuff. That's
Yeah.
where we'd probably suggest starting with email. It's an easy one to start with. The implementation's easy. You can run A/B tests easily and get that going. Maybe ads as well. That's an easy one too, because you're already segmenting, you're already creating custom ads for those segments. Now let's show you how to run more personalized one-to-one ads using Hyperize. So email or ads, remarketing, retargeting ads. Then you start to slowly learn the whole system, build your segments, get the data flow in, start to understand Hyperize, work closely with Ian and the team. Now you're in a world where Hyperize, the client's experiencing positive results from your level of personalization using Hyperize. And now you start to carve out more use cases and say, oh, well, you know what? We're doing this awesome segmentation on the ad side or the email side. But once they visit the website, they're all seeing the same experience. What can we do on the website? And now you can start to give your clients recommendations saying, hey, they're all seeing this experience, but I want to show this segment that experience and this segment that experience. So let's do that. So now we're looking at a full funnel system where the ads are driving traffic to the web page. They're seeing the same experience from the ad to the web page, that personalized experience. They convert on the web page to demo or whatever the conversion is. Then they're getting a personalized email, right? So that's the full funnel. More or less, and there's some other components in there. But talk to me about the pricing when I get to a full funnel personalized service. What of this recommended pricing, if we're talking to the average agency, I think is around $100 an hour, give or take where you're located and how much you charge. But talk to me about the total hours that are involved in setting up what we see here. What amount goes to Hyperize, and then what's left as far as margin?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of the cost for this, it really comes down to kind of a resource perspective, that cost, and then, like I say, the element of Hyperize. So because Hyperize approach is a code-free one, to actually implement this, in an email or in a funnel, through to the website, it's literally just a copy and paste, process. It doesn't require any heavy lifting. So essentially, the kind of the effort resource is coordinating the campaign materials from the client, getting access. So probably in total for a kind of a 90-day program, that will mostly be the kind of the hand-holding of the client, understanding their needs, taking their assets and implementing it together. So probably in total, no more than a couple of hours of resource perspective from the agency, but that could quite easily be, like in this example, like a $3,000 to $5,000 chargeable billable amount over a 90-day period of providing that. And I think we're kind of providing kind of clear upsides with A/B testing with email. You can really solidify the results that he's going to drive to provide further opportunities. But in terms of the other costs, for a monthly subscription to Hyperize that would enable all of these kind of capabilities, it's like $99, right? So if you were saying it's, let's say, 4 hours, to be generous from an agency perspective, at $99 a month, and then an additional $99 for the software, then you're probably at $500 for a, $5,000 return, and then beyond that, kind of virtually no resource costs, for a, $1,000 retain or whatever it may be, for that, maintaining that client's kind of campaign.
Yep. Okay. Got it. That makes sense. So, I like this. I mean, this is doable. I think this is an awesome value add. And, if we're talking about results and then we'll talk about selling against your clients, maybe interested in something like this. This is the alternative, main alternative, what you see most often. But talk to me about, the types of ROI. If the ROI discussion comes into the picture, what do you typically tell an agency or a user who's trying to sell a build of Hyperize when they ask you about ROI? What do you typically say?
Sure, absolutely. I think fundamentally we would normally provide some sort of trial to a client, and then pick their lowest hanging fruit. So, the proof is always in the pudding, right? So if you can say, well, let's take any of your kind of worst performing or best performing campaigns, and let's just run a quick A/B test of how you presently do it, and then one with a personalization in there, such as personalized image, using their existing sales marketing collateral. That's a real kind of like an hour's worth of work, but to that client, and you can demonstrate to them that they're going to have like 2x their conversions. I think, like I say, for something that is a kind of a low effort and such a kind of demonstrable result, it really kind of takes away any kind of barriers for that client.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. And then, we're living in a world where you as an agency want to recommend solutions that are cost effective and efficient and, fit into the budget really, so if you come up to one of your clients that's already spending 5, 10, even 20K a month with you, and you recommend a Clearbit Optimizely build, although that may be necessary at a certain size, maybe. And you can talk to me about your experience with when you would probably want to go with an Optimizely versus Hyperize. But let's talk about the landscape here, and let's talk about why you guys fit in where you fit in versus these other solutions.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, my passion has always been kind of mid-market, if you like. I've kind of always had customers in that area, and I like to kind of connect. And so that's kind of, we're pitching ourselves in that area rather than, kind of the price creep that you see so often from software companies, that fundamentally they're not changing anything different from their lower end price to when they creep up into enterprise. I mean, obviously there are small elements in terms of how we handle, we're not geared up for enterprise customers in terms of contractually or single sign-on or all of those sort of kind of enterprise features. And obviously that's reflected in our price point. But, we have clients, that could be considered blue chip. So it's not from a kind of not being capable to provide that from a software perspective. It's just, from a service perspective, we're geared up to be more agile than maybe a typical enterprise business would be used to.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of where I've seen it most often. I mean, it's going to be something where more and more marketing agencies are going to be leaned on and expected to manage the personalization, or just to have personalization as a minimum for a lot of these campaigns. And we're not talking about dynamic text. We're not talking about, just A/B testing and splitting traffic into different routes. We're talking about some really solid one-to-one personalization throughout the funnel. So
yeah, I mean, I think from our perspective, it's rare for a client to specifically have the agenda of, I want personalization. Normally that's the solution to a pain point they're seeing, where their ads aren't working or they're not getting kind of the conversions from their emails. And then essentially, the personalization is the solution to that, because it's going to increase the conversion at each of those steps.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so the buying keywords you have to listen for, CRO, is the main one. We just need to convert more. Client says, hey,
Yeah,
Alex or Ian, you know, we believe we've got fall off. We believe that the content's just not resonating in email and on on our web page. What can you do for us, right? Perfect
absolutely.
opportunity to start talking about website personalization. Email click rates. We're not talking about open rates. That's
Yeah,
dynamic text can handle that, but click rates. So, you know, what is happening in the email, and this is maybe nurturing emails, maybe sales emails, but they're just not being clicked at all, or just you believe that the click rate is low for what you want to do. So perfect
yeah,
opportunity. Overall customer satisfaction, or maybe even something that you can probably bring up personalization around, where you may just feel like, yeah, the customer experience is limited, or it's just, you know, the customers are just not feeling what you want them to feel from your website experience.
yeah.
Personalization is a perfect opportunity there.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. SEO as well. So, for example, Google now monitors linger time on your site. So, if you're providing a better experience to your customers, then a byproduct of that is a better SEO score from your bounce rate, essentially, right? So, there are, if someone has an SEO problem, personalization, whilst it speaks to other areas with CRO, it also kind of covers, many aspects of that linger time on your site as well, which is incredibly important.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. So yeah, just how they're navigating your site. Are they actually moving through your site at a reasonable rate? Are they getting stuck? Are they bouncing? Are they lingering, like you said?
Yeah.
So perfect. So hopefully, you know, everyone's pretty excited about this. I mean, we're going to dive into what is Hyperize, how to set it up, what can it do for you. So definitely jump into that class if you have time right now, or bookmark it for a later date. But this hopefully set the tone for the ecosystem, you know, what's happening in the market, what are the other players good for versus Hyperize, and obviously showing you, you know, why we're representing Hyperize in this as a partnership. So we'll leave you with this. I mean, this is a partnership discussion. So Ian and his team are going to work with you as an agency, a little bit different than they'd work with the actual end customer, meaning they're going to co-sell with you, meaning they're going to be on calls with you on those bigger accounts if you need them to help your clients understand Hyperize. So you're not on your own trying to sell Hyperize to your clients. There's a partner program, so you'll have some benefits of being involved in the partner program, some incentives there. You can be just a referral partner, of course. If you just want to send people over to Ian and his team, they'll take it from there. But I think the better, the golden goose of this whole thing is to really add a service to your website, you know, become a marketer that clients can trust to do full funnel personalization. That's our goal, to help, you know, weaponize you to become that agency. So take these classes, reach out to Ian. You can do that now. We'll put a demo link right below this video, and get in Ian's calendar and learn about website personalization. Watch the rest of the videos, and hopefully get comfortable enough with it to start selling it as a service. Anything I missed, Ian?
No, that was very verbose, a very good summary.
Yeah, I think we got it. So
Yeah,
we'll see you
amazing.
guys in the next class. Thanks, Ian.
Cheers, looking forward to it.